Let's get an update on the trial of Sean Diddy Combs in New York, where lawyers for the prosecution have given their closing arguments. They say the media mogul is the leader of a criminal enterprise who used violence and fear in brutal crimes. Sean Combs is charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The jury heard from 34 witnesses, including ex-girlfriends, former employees of Combs, male escorts, and federal agents. He denies all charges, but if found guilty, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. I heard from Meghann Cuniff, a reporter in Southern California, who's been following the trial closely.
This was the chance for the prosecutors to really put their case together and go through the evidence and argue why all of this shows that jurors need to convict on all counts. And they really went through each charge and explained the elements. And really the racketeering conspiracy charge is the biggest charge because it has predicate acts. There's certain acts that they're alleging were done as part of this racketeering conspiracy. And to convict on the racketeering conspiracy charge, jurors need to find that at least two or more were committed in furtherance of this conspiracy. And the prosecutors have acts such as bribery, arson, kidnapping, and they went through those. We heard about the arson of Kid Cudi's car. He's a rapper who was in a relationship with Diddy's girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who has testified early in trial and is one of the main victims here. The prosecutors really explained why they think that arson is connected to Diddy. They're not saying that he is the one that actually torched the car and threw the Molotov cocktail, but it was one of his associates, and they feel like that really supports the co-conspirator, the racketeering conspiracy charge.
And on Friday, we'll hear from the defense. What do they need to prove in their closing arguments?
Of course, they don't need to prove anything, and jurors will be told that the burden of proof is on prosecutors. But of course, the defense really wants to show jurors that there just isn't enough here to convict them, that this is an overreach by prosecutors. And I think, especially the racketeering charge, they're going to go hard on to show that there isn't any kind of organization or co conspirators. And also the charges involving sex trafficking. There's two sex trafficking charges by force, fraud, or coercion. And that's for Cassie, and then a woman who testified under the name Jane. And I think they're really going to be hitting hard on those and saying that there was no fraud or coercion, that Jane and Cassie were willing participants in this.
The jurors have had weeks of evidence now from dozens of witnesses as well. Just talk us through what the key allegations are against Sean Combs.
They're basically alleging that for years he has used his organization, his company, his employees to support his criminal lifestyle with women, that he has sexual fetishes, that he uses his organization to act out into reality, and that he's victimizing women while he does this.
So what happens next after we have the closing arguments?
Then it will be time for the jury to deliberate. There will be a chance for prosecutors to give a rebuttal argument because it emphasizes that the burden of proof is on them. So they get to argue twice. And then jurors will start deliberating. And everyone is, of course, on pins and needles for that. We're expecting deliberations to start on Monday. And people are wondering how long it's going to go. You never know how long a jury is going to deliberate, how fast they could come back. People are wondering if they're going to come back by the 4th of July Independence holiday here in the United States, but there's really no way to tell. But a lot of people are thinking that if they start deliberating on Monday, the chances of them having a verdict sometime that week are pretty good, but it's not guaranteed.
And if found guilty, what sort of sentence is Sean Combs likely to face? There's been speculation of life imprisonment.
Yes, the racketeering charge does carry a possibility of that. So it's really a question of what is he convicted of, and then there will be a whole separate process for that, a whole argument where there's the U.S. Sentencing Commission in the United States that sets these guidelines in federal court that usually are less than the maximum sentence. It kind of depends on somebody's criminal history and a number of different issues, but that will be heavily litigated once if it reaches that point.
New York and the United States are known for these blockbuster trials. How does this particular trial sit in terms of what we've seen in the past?
This has been huge just in terms of the public interest. I was actually just in New York City there to see the trial myself, just because I wanted to see it. And you have to pay somebody to stand in line for you if you want any hope of getting one of the 14 public seats. There's limited seats for the press, and then there's 14 public seats. There's a lot of established media outlets have access to the press room where they can listen to audio from the courtroom, but there's a real circus atmosphere to the trial. And I think the Southern District of New York is used to really high stakes trials, and frankly, trials with way more worldly and political implications than this. But they're not used to trials with just so much celebrity interest and then interest from bloggers and people on social media. There's just quite a scene outside the courthouse of people live streaming and talking to their own YouTube fans about what's going on.
And that was the reporter Meghann Cuniff. Stay with us on Newsday if you can.